Hello and welcome to the TTI Distribution Download, the podcast where we talk about all things happening in the world of electronic components with the specialists of TTI. And now, your host for the TTI Distribution Download, Paula Renfro.
Welcome, everybody, to the TTI Distribution Download. My name is Paula Renfro, and our guest today is Gabe Osorio from TTI's legendary Transportation Business Unit, also known as the TBU.
Hello, Paula.
Thanks for coming today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Good. Let's start today with how you came to be in the TBU. I understand that you came through electric vehicle, passenger, automotive.
Yeah, absolutely. So started off my career in electronic component distribution with another distributor. But through that work...
it will not be named later?
Yep, nope,
okay.
Nope, not at all. But through the work with that company, got my interest and involvement in electrification, certainly as the market was beginning to explode. Probably about 7 or 8 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. Really by way of physical location, being on the West Coast where a lot of the EV startups have been generated, especially the California market, Vancouver, British Columbia, even the Pacific Northwest.
Is that still the heart?
I would say California without a doubt.
Okay.
Yeah, but certainly spreading across the country, just about everywhere. Major metropolitan area has some kind of major EV installation of some sort, whether it's infrastructure, an automotive OEM, and certainly right now, last mile delivery vehicles really being the kind of driver for it. But by way of being there in location and mainly interest in that marketplace, was able to kind of really dig my feet into learning about those customers, learning about what they needed. Specifically from distribution at the time. And really developed a passion and a love for it at that point in time. So,
and how long have you been with TTI and what is your role here?
Yeah, it'll be 6 years in August of this year, which is crazy. It's gone by really fast.
Really fast.
And currently my title is Director of Marketing for our transportation group. But really what that means is supporting our regional sales engineers on our transportation team by getting them the right information from our suppliers on our line card that have transportation-focused products.
And how many of those are there?
There's close to 70 suppliers on the line card, but transportation-specific suppliers is 7.
And how many engineers?
7 engineers.
7 engineers.
Yep. Yeah. So we have 7 regional sales engineers spread out throughout the country. So
it's grown so much over the 10 years as I've watched the Transportation Business Unit, or again, as we call it, the TBU, just the sheer number of markets and applications where electronics are impacting transportation, like everything from agriculture equipment to electrification, as you've said. So where are you seeing the most growth? Is it of the electrification? Where are you seeing that and what vehicles?
I think you see in the news every day more and more about automotive EV, right? That everybody's got a new EV vehicle coming out for the passenger vehicle. Many of those are still years away.
Okay.
I would say certainly the Ford Lightning is come out. We've got Tesla certainly out in the marketplace and a few of the Chinese EV OEMs. But for us here in North America, certainly the fastest growing and the one that's coming the fastest down the road is that last mile vehicle delivery.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So if you start to think about all of the deliveries that have certainly happening on a daily basis across the country.
Like Amazon.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Amazon, FedEx, UPS, think even more commercial or industrial than that, right? All of the deliveries that are happening to businesses every single day from their suppliers. There's so much that's ready to be, I'll say, interrupted from an internal combustion standpoint with EV and the last mile delivery. And that's honestly where we see the best application for current battery, I'll say capacity on those vehicles. Most of them can't go more than a couple hundred miles in a day. Most last mile delivery vehicles don't drive more than 180 miles in a day.
Yeah. So it seems like this last mile delivery vehicle, everyone's going to benefit from that. Tell me about the technologies that we are waiting on. Like you said, battery, is a limiting factor. So what technologies should we be looking forward to really get that show on the road?
Yeah. There's quite a few coming. Certainly from the battery perspective, improvement on range. So range anxiety, right? You hear that all the time when when it comes to EVs. The reason last mile delivery vehicles are such a ripe market for electrification is, again, the short distances in relativity that they drive in a day, even though they're out driving around all day. So a battery can actually last, or make it through an entire shift and then do a slow charge overnight. So one of the improvements that you're seeing, that we're seeing coming down the line is around battery management systems, or BMS. That's the proprietary IP that most BMS manufacturers are out there trying to do, right? How do you squeeze every ounce of efficiency out of a battery to extend the range and the performance of a battery on a vehicle? And that's critical, especially when you start talking about having payload on a truck or on a van or something along those lines. In addition to that, I think autonomy. You can't talk electrification without autonomy as well too. That's certainly coming down the road. Maybe faster than some might be comfortable with or would like, depending on the market that you're in. For example, Phoenix, you see Waymo vans driving around in San Francisco or the Bay Area. You'll see Neuro delivery vehicles maybe delivering your groceries.
Doing that last mile delivery, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So certainly a lot of that to come as well too, which is really exciting. It presents an opportunity for us to really provide a lot more components when you start thinking about all of the new technology on a truck, right? From a digital screen to the battery pack, everything's electric now.
Right,
so
right.
there's no motor, there's nothing.
So speaking of the technology, and like every day we're waiting or we're seeing a new technology. Working with our suppliers as closely as you and your team do, can you give our listeners any sneak peek? Here's something that's coming that our design engineer partners are just waiting for.
Yeah, there's a lot. To pick one is a hard thing to do, but I'll just keep it.
I could pick the sexiest one.
Yeah, sure. So something called megawatt charging, which sounds something right out of like Back to the Future or something like that. But megawatt charging is something that's coming, and it's primarily focused for big, think commercial vehicles. So Class 8 trucks, over the highway type trucks, agriculture, mining, construction, anything that's big earth movers or big payload movers, where you need to be able to drive a truck across the country, but then also have a full charge on a massive battery pack within hours and not, or really in minutes, and as opposed to, 8, 9, 10, 12 hours overnight. Can't have a truck just sitting around.
Can't take it off the road. Yeah,
exactly. So I kid you not when I tell you, and I realize this is a recording, so it's going to be nothing to those listening, but it's about the size of your head, this connector that would, plug into the vehicle and looks like
enable that much power, that much charging, that quick charging.
That's right. Yep. And that's coming down the line. They are.
I'm resisting the urge to say, and Gabe has no small head, but anyway, go ahead.
That's perfect. Yeah. But it's exciting to see. There is still, it's kind of still the great Wild West when it comes to EV charging.
And you've seen this technology not available yet, but coming? Not
fully released.
Not fully released.
Suppliers on our line card have options that we will put in inventory, and are working with customers on trying to find a home for those and what those look like. The biggest challenge right now is standards, right? Trying to figure out
so
what those
everybody
look like.
Out there that has an idea of what you're talking about is wondering this: what is that connector going to cost?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say it's probably in the more than a few $100s. I'll say it's going to be up there. So bad. Yeah, just the connector though. If you're talking the assembly, it's probably a few thousand. So yeah. So it'll be expensive, but it's gonna really transform for those larger vehicles. Really transform the ability to electrify more of them.
So speaking of this big connector, there's a receptacle, right, and the charging station, and we're always talking about there not being enough infrastructure. So tell us about that. What is going on? What new technology is coming?
Yeah, really good question. Couple different things that are happening out there. One, you're seeing more expansion of charging infrastructure out in the marketplace. If you follow news around the charging infrastructure deals that are happening, obviously with the recent infrastructure bill that was passed, there's a lot more investment being put into it. So you have a lot of incentives for major trucking companies, major even gas stations. I can think of recent announcements from Pilot and a few others that are going to be installing charging infrastructure at their locations in the near future. The interesting thing that we're starting to see is OEMs of vehicles. So think like a Daimler truck, a Proterra bus, anybody that's making an EV product are now also setting up a secondary business within that company that is providing charging infrastructure to their customer base. So in the example of an electric bus, they might also provide the charging station tower, the vendors needed to do the installation.
Like to the school district.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or to a municipality or whatever that might be. Yep, exactly. Or in the case of a heavy duty truck, I think of the Port of Los Angeles as a great example where all of those day trucks that are just moving trailers all over the place, those guys that are electrifying those are installing and helping support the installation of that, the infrastructure needed to be able to charge it. Because let's face it, most of those companies, if I'm a fleet owner, I have no idea how to go or who to talk to, right? To who's going to help me put this into my yard and connect it to ultimately the major electrical grid to be able to support the power that's going to be required.
So as that momentum picks up, will we see technology advance quicker and quicker? Is there a balance there? Or I guess I'm saying crossing the chasm, right? Are we waiting for that to happen?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. There's so much of new technology that's coming down the line that seems very conceptual at this point, where, yes, we think we can get to this point of, a quick charge even for a passenger vehicle or for a truck that might take only 30 minutes or something like that. Those are kind of that desired state of being for the EV marketplace. It's taken us a good, probably a lot longer than 50 years to get to this point, but certainly in the last 20 years, the advances have come a little bit slower. But as we look back 5 years, the advances are even faster. So it seems like absolutely you're right that we will see more technological advances and releases happening much quicker, and it does seem
as
like
we
that.
Build that
absolutely,
momentum.
And it's reflected from our suppliers and the technologies that they're releasing as well.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how the TTI TBU team brings value to the automotive design engineer, right? So the mechanical engineer, I understand in this case, really focuses on things like switchgear, component packaging, internal component packaging, and the electrical engineer really with everything related to powertrain now, right? And
That's right.
Infotainment. So tell us what kind of value assist that you and your team bring to that automotive design engineer.
Yeah. First thing I'll say is we deal with many different types of engineers, definitely mechanical and electrical, but we're starting to see even just a crazy amount of requests coming from college campuses now as well, focusing on the engineering side of things for componentry, which is kind of a new, as a matter of fact, just got a request from a major university in Michigan very recently for a solar car with a bunch of different types of engineers looking for different types of board level components,
prototyping,
sensors,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And a lot of the technology that you see in the marketplace today for batteries, for infotainment and things like that started at these college car programs and things like that. So just a side note there. But our team definitely focuses on bringing the value, I'll say, of choice. First and foremost, we have a mix of engineers on our team that are both mechanical and electrical. Lots of experience on our team of gentlemen who have been not only wire harness manufacturing designers, but they've also worked for the truck OEMs, board level designers, and lots of great background. I would say, tens of years of background doing actual design work themselves. And now on the side of it of being able to help the design engineers locate product, find the newest and latest and greatest of a certain component that might be available. And again, I think it's the value of choice, certainly, where sometimes, based on a device that an engineer might be using, might be very locked into a specific connector or product. We can actually go out and look and say, hey, that's a great product. this is also available that is maybe a little bit better for your application or specific use. Maybe it's a cheaper component. Maybe it's more readily available. There's a multitude
Interesting.
of
I would have
things.
thought it was so specialized that there might not be much opportunity for crossing, that so many things would be sole sourced. But I suppose it depends on the information that you get, right? And that's a
100%.
lot of research if the design engineer is trying to do that and find
think
all
about
the sources.
on not only one single part, but on hundreds of parts based on a specific bill of material or something like that. So for them to be able to do that is a great value that they bring. And I think even more importantly than that, though, our customers and the engineers that we work with regularly are also looking for us to bring them new product. What else are our suppliers releasing into the marketplace that they haven't seen? So much of our time at trade shows is spent having those type of conversations with customers, which is great because we can talk to so many at one time.
Now that we can go to trade shows again, do you recommend?
Yeah,
the trade show is a source.
I do. It's I've gone to 2 so far this year, and they have been fantastic in terms of being able to engage with customers and learn what they're looking for and see the product in person, but also engaging with suppliers and finding out what their challenges are and getting to those customers or getting to the right customers and making sure that they're putting out the right product that the market is asking for. So it's absolutely worth going to the right shows, and there's a few of them out there, based on market and industry that you're looking for within transportation that we can recommend as well too.
Yeah, so engineer, come to the trade show to learn, but also to share your voice and your needs, so that the suppliers will that will be the technology they're working on.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great market research.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of further the value conversation too, I think the additional thing that the team does is this is a regional team based across the country as well. So we have communication and access with major OEMs, with the device manufacturers that build for those OEMs, and then ultimately with CMs or contract manufacturers, wire harness manufacturers, all in the same line. So we can communicate very effectively and help OEMs find those customers that can help support their business, but then also tie business together for our suppliers and for our customers as well.
So you make recommendations.
Absolutely.
Is that what you just said?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
That's good. So Gabe, let's talk just a little more about these 7 specialized transportation suppliers. Really working with them on a co-op basis, I understand that they're heavy on the science and heavy on the R&D, the interaction. Even the publication of literature, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
So how can you bridge that gap for the design engineer?
Great question. And yes, we do. And you're absolutely right. The traditional transportation suppliers or really automotive suppliers, many of the suppliers of those 7 that we talk about are very strictly automotive focused, though their product bleeds into many other transportation market segments. And yes, they can be very difficult. They have limited resources on a website, catalogs that are from 1999 and haven't been updated since. Lots of different things like that. Hard to find prints, 3D models, or even just an engineer at their facility to talk to about a question. And absolutely our job and the job of the sales engineers on our team is to essentially act as that suppliers' sales force out in the marketplace. So while they're doing it for multiple hats for those suppliers, all of them are able to speak logically, technically, and are well-versed on those suppliers and have the connections back into those suppliers to get a hold of an EV engineer for a connector or to be able to help with the power distribution module and making sure we're getting the right product for that or any of those. But getting the right engineer on a call with a customer at the time, we are able to do that, or even as simple as providing a print or a sample.
Mm-hmm. Getting them to the right place on the phone tree. You can imagine, right? If you know your party's extension.
Yeah, exactly.
Difficult in that manufacturing environment.
Yeah, many of them don't even list a voicemail or anything like that you can leave a number for. So it's hard.
It's a secret.
Yep.
So you have to know the agents at the legendary TTI TBU.
That's right.
Gabe, this has been fun to kick off this series with you. So I'm going to our audience out there, go to TTI.com and learn who these 7 secret suppliers are.
Yep.
And tune in next time where we learn from Gabe what other technology that is coming down the road as big as his head.
Thanks, Paula.
Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Gabe.
That's it for this episode of the TTI Distribution Download. For more information on any of the topics you heard about today, reach out to your nearby TTI branch at 1-800-CALL-TTI or visit us online at tti.com.